Welcome to the moment you didn't see coming, the moment that snuck up on you while the world wasn't watching, the moment that wasn't supposed to happen, but did. And now it's echoing in your ears, pounding in your chest, demanding your attention like a war drum in the silence of mediocrity. You didn't plan every detail. You didn't design the blueprint for perfection. You didn't follow the safe route, the obvious path, or the 10 rules to success. No, you just threw something together, maybe in a storm, maybe in chaos, maybe while doubting every inch of yourself. But you did it, and now the world is watching. They're asking, how? How did something so raw, so unrefined, so random, go viral? They want an explanation. They want data, structure, logic. But what they don't understand is this. What you created wasn't random. It was real. It was unfiltered. It was born in the fire of frustration, in the shadows of neglect, in the tension of being overlooked one too many times. It came from that place inside you that was tired of being small, tired of waiting, tired of being told to stay in line, sit down, be quiet. It was rebellion wrapped in creativity. It was pain molded into purpose. And though it looked like chaos to them, it was clarity for you. See, this world isn't ruled by the predictable. It isn't moved by the polished. The world shakes when something untamed grabs its throat and forces it to look. You didn't go viral by mistake. You went viral because deep down, the algorithm of life itself respects those who move boldly, even in brokenness, especially in brokenness. And now, the people who once dismissed you as irrelevant are refreshing their feed, trying to dissect your formula, trying to reverse engineer what you never even planned. That's the irony, isn't it? They spend years learning how to be strategic, how to be perfect, how to be liked by everyone. And you put your truth out there when no one asked for it, and it struck a chord. It cracked the surface. It turned passive scrolls into stunned pauses. Not because it was trendy, but because it was undeniable. They'll call it luck. They'll call it timing. They'll say it was an accident. But deep down they feel it too. That ache. That quiet voice whispering, what if I stopped pretending? What if I showed up with my mess, my story, my chaos? Because what went viral wasn't a product. It was you. Unedited, unplanned, unapologetic. You didn't need their checklist. You didn't need their permission. You didn't need to follow the same path everyone else carved through mediocrity. You carved your own with blunt force and raw honesty. And now they're scrambling to understand the blueprint of something you created in defiance of blueprints. It wasn't about going viral. It was about finally being heard. And when people hear truth, they respond. Not always with praise, sometimes with resistance, sometimes with envy. But they react. Because you reminded them what it looks like to break the rhythm of safe silence. You reminded them what it means to stop performing and start existing. This wasn't luck. This was legacy disguised as spontaneity. This was purpose wearing the mask of randomness. And the reason it hit hard, the reason it spread like wildfire, is because the world is starving. Starving for something real. Starving for someone brave enough to not try so hard. Brave enough to show up anyway. So when they ask you, how did that random thing go viral? Look them in the eye and tell them the truth they're afraid to admit. Because it wasn't random. It was me. Undiluted. Undermined. Underestimated. And still, unstoppable. What you created wasn't a polished gem handed down from some mythical mountain of expertise. It was a shard of glass thrown through the silence, a brutal interruption of the comfortable, the usual, the dull. It was imperfect, ragged, messy, just like the part of yourself you've hidden from the world because you thought it wasn't good enough. But here's the secret. The world doesn't want perfect. It wants real. It wants the grit under the nails, the cracks in the armor, the ugly moments that don't make it into highlight reels. Because those moments are what connect us. Those moments are what say, you're not alone. So you threw it together. Maybe a last-minute idea, a throwaway thought, a little experiment when no one was looking. You didn't expect much because why would you? You know the story. The careful planners dominate the stage. The experts with spreadsheets and timelines tell you what works and what doesn't. But the truth is, the world is always hungry for a glitch in the system. A glitch that reminds us that life isn't a formula. Life is chaos. Life is unpredictability, and in that chaos is power. What you did was create a fissure, a crack in the glass of the perfectly curated feeds and manufactured smiles. You shattered the illusion that everything has to be rehearsed and sanitized before it can be heard. You dared to be loud in your silence, messy in your order, vulnerable in your armor. And that's magnetic. So now the question isn't, how did that random thing go viral? The question is, what are you going to do with this moment? Because once you've tasted the power of showing up unfiltered, you'll never want to go back to hiding behind facades. You'll know the intoxicating rush of being seen for who you really are. Flaws, scars, doubts, and all. This moment you've stumbled into is a fork in the road. One path leads back to safety, to careful planning, to slow, predictable growth. The other is a wild, untamed journey where you don't ask for permission, where you create not for approval, but for impact, where you harness the chaos inside you and wield it like a weapon. Don't mistake this viral moment as just a fluke or a stroke of luck. It's a calling. It's a spotlight on a truth you've always carried but never dared to reveal. The world saw it and responded. They responded because you tapped into something raw, something unrefined, something real. This isn't about going viral. This is about going true, about stepping into a version of yourself that refuses to be polished into submission. A version of yourself that understands that sometimes the loudest, most resonant voice isn't the one that's the most rehearsed. It's the one that breaks through the noise by being unapologetically authentic. Think about the stories that stick with you, the ones that grip your soul, that wake something inside you, that make you feel less alone. They aren't perfect stories. They're messy. They're complicated. They're human. And that's exactly what you gave the world when you threw that random thing together. You gave them a piece of yourself that cuts through the noise. Now, this isn't the time to get comfortable with the applause. The dark truth of viral fame is it's fleeting. What's viral today is forgotten tomorrow. So, if you want to make this moment count, you have to dig deeper. You have to keep pushing through the discomfort of showing up as your unfiltered self. Because the real power isn't in the viral hit. It's in the persistence of truth-telling, in the relentless pursuit of authenticity, no matter how many times you're ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood. The truth is, most people never get this far because they're afraid. Afraid to show the cracks in their facade, afraid to risk rejection, afraid to be seen in all their flawed humanity. But you crossed that line. You took a risk. You put your voice out there without a safety net, and it caught fire. That means you're already playing a different game than most. While they wait for permission, you've already started the revolution of being real. While they strategize endlessly, you've already embraced the power of chaos. While they perfect their masks, you've shattered yours. So take this viral moment and own it. Own the chaos that birthed it. Own the imperfect, the messy, the unknown. Because in that ownership lies freedom. Freedom from the need to control, to predict, to be safe. Freedom to create, to disrupt, to shake the foundations of what's considered acceptable. Remember, the greatest movements in history weren't scripted by committees or perfected by focus groups. They were sparked by people who dared to be different, who dared to be loud, who dared to throw their random ideas into the world without a second thought. And those sparks ignited fires that changed everything. You're one of those sparks. Don't let the fear of imperfection silence you again. Don't let the world's need for polished perfection chain you to mediocrity. You threw something together and it went viral because you dared to be you. That's your power. That's your weapon. That's your legacy in the making. So go ahead. Keep throwing your wild, raw, unfiltered truth into the world. Keep breaking the mold, shattering expectations, disrupting the quiet. Because this world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more real, more raw, more unapologetic souls who refuse to be tamed. And if you ever doubt it, just look back at that moment when your random creation exploded, when the world finally paid attention. That was no accident. That was destiny calling you out of the shadows and into the light, mess and all. You didn't just stumble into this moment by accident. You were ready for it, even if you didn't know it at the time. Sometimes, life doesn't give us the neat, step-by-step manual. It throws us into the storm, drenched in uncertainty, forcing us to build a raft from the wreckage of what we thought was possible. And when you threw that random thing together, you weren't just filling space. You were carving out a space where your voice could scream loud enough to be heard through the noise. You were lighting a signal fire in the darkest corner, calling out to anyone else who felt lost, overlooked, or unseen. This moment is a fracture in time, a crack that exposed what was always underneath. Your raw power, your unfiltered truth, your unwillingness to stay quiet any longer. And that's terrifying for many. It's easier to blend in, to follow the rules, to keep polishing the surface until the edges are dull and safe. But you didn't do that. You embraced the jagged edges, the roughness, the not good enough parts everyone else tries to hide. And the world noticed, because there's a hunger in us all for something real, something that cuts through the polished lies and superficial noise. You created a moment that bypassed logic, bypassed strategy, bypassed all the rules. It wasn't supposed to work. At least that's what the voices in your head and the doubters around you said. But it did. Because truth doesn't need permission. Truth doesn't ask for an invitation. Truth demands attention. And when you gave the world a glimpse of your unvarnished reality, it responded with a force no algorithm could predict. Think about that for a second. Something you barely thought twice about. Something thrown together in the midst of chaos, outpaced and outperformed the polished efforts of experts who spent months or years planning their moves. Why? Because your creation carried weight. It carried the invisible burden of your experience, your pain, your rebellion. It wasn't just content, it was a declaration. It was a middle finger to the system that tried to tell you to be quiet, to fit in, to wait your turn. You broke through. You disrupted the narrative. You became the glitch in the matrix. And in doing so, you forced the world to confront something uncomfortable. That sometimes the loudest voice isn't the one that's rehearsed to perfection. It's the one that's bleeding, that's raw, that's real. But here's the cruel truth wrapped inside this dark moment of victory. The world will want to reduce your explosion to a single word: luck, accident, fluke. They will try to package your chaos into something digestible, explainable, and safe, so they can keep believing the system works. But you and I, we know better. We know that viral moments like this are born from the fire of resistance, the grit of persistence, and the refusal to be invisible. This is your invitation to refuse the box they try to put you in. Refuse the scripts they hand out. Refuse to dim your light to make others comfortable. You've seen what happens when you embrace your messiness, when you let the world see your shadows alongside your sparks. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. In fact, perfection is often the enemy of power. It's the mask that suffocates the truth until it's barely recognizable. You took a chance on being vulnerable, and it paid off in ways you didn't expect. But don't let this moment be your peak. Let it be your awakening. This viral success is a glimpse of what happens when you stop caring about being ready or enough and just show up, all in, no filters, no apologies. You've tapped into something ancient and primal, the hunger for connection through honesty, even if it's messy or uncomfortable. That hunger will never go away. It's what drives revolutions, movements, art, and innovation. Your viral moment is just the first tremor of an earthquake beneath the surface, a seismic shift in how you will live, create, and influence moving forward. Now the real work begins. Because going viral isn't the finish line, it's the starting gun. It's the call to deepen your craft, sharpen your voice, and refuse to settle for surface-level impact. You felt what it's like to shake the foundations with something thrown together in chaos. Imagine what you can build when you wield that power intentionally. You're no longer a bystander. You're a disruptor, a creator, a force to be reckoned with. The randomness that birthed your viral moment is proof that sometimes the greatest power lies not in careful planning, but in brave spontaneity, the courage to release what's inside you, even if it's rough around the edges. So stand in that power. Own the moment. Fuel the fire that started it all. Let the world scramble to catch up while you lead the charge into the unknown. Because the truth is this: the chaos you feared is your greatest weapon. The mess you thought was a weakness is your strongest armor. The unplanned moment that shook the internet is the loudest announcement you'll ever make that you are here and you're not going anywhere. You might still feel like it was luck, like it was a fluke, like you got lucky with the timing or the algorithm or some cosmic coincidence. But the truth? Luck has nothing to do with it. What you did, what you created, was the culmination of every silent struggle, every sleepless night, every whispered doubt that you pushed through despite all the noise telling you to quit. When you threw that thing together, you weren't just making content, you were breaking chains. Chains forged by self-doubt, by fear of failure, by the weight of expectation. You shattered the illusion that you had to be perfect, polished, and market-ready to be worthy of attention. You became the living proof that raw authenticity slices through the noise faster than any carefully crafted campaign ever could. You're the contradiction the world didn't know it needed. The mess that makes others uncomfortable, but that others desperately crave. Because beneath all the gloss and filter, beneath the curated highlight reels, people are starving for truth, starving for proof that someone out there dared to be themselves fully and was rewarded for it. And now here you stand, not just viral, but seen, not just noticed, but heard. That's not a small thing. It's a revolution. It's the moment when the hidden cracks in the system start to widen and the sterile, sanitized way of doing things begins to crumble. You didn't just create content. You created a spark that could ignite a wildfire. But be warned, with that kind of fire comes resistance. The higher you rise on the wings of authenticity, the louder the backlash will be from those clinging to the old ways, the ones terrified of what your raw, chaotic power represents. They'll try to tame you, to box you back into conformity, to convince you this was a one-time fluke and not a movement. Don't fall for it. This isn't just a viral moment. This is a call to arms. It's a demand that you step fully into your power, that you stop apologizing for your mess, your randomness, your unpredictability, because those are not flaws. They are your secret weapons. Look back on every piece of random content you threw together in frustration, in exhaustion, in rebellion. Each one was a grenade tossed into the quiet conformity of the crowd. Each one exploded because it carried the weight of you, your story, your pain, your refusal to play by the rules. Now imagine what you can do if you channel that power intentionally, if you stop waiting for permission and start creating with purpose. The world won't just notice you once. It will follow you. It will listen. It will hang on every word because you dared to break free. You've already felt the heady rush of going viral, but don't let it fool you into complacency. The real challenge, the real test, is what you do next. Do you retreat into safety, trying to replicate a formula that no one can teach? Or do you dive headfirst into the chaos again, knowing full well that your greatest impact will come when you're raw, vulnerable, and unapologetically you? The truth is, most people will never get this chance because they're too scared, too obsessed with perfection, too shackled by their own fears. But you're a disruptor, a fire starter, a living contradiction that refuses to be muted. So when the world asks, how did that random thing go viral? You won't just answer with words. You'll answer with your relentless, ongoing defiance of expectations. You'll show them that viral isn't about luck or timing. It's about courage. The courage to throw your unpolished truth into the world and dare to believe it belongs there. Embrace the dark truth that your messiness is your magnetism, that your chaos is your clarity, that your unpredictability is your power. Because when you stop trying to fit into a mold, that's when you shatter it, and the shards cut deep enough to leave a mark on the world. You didn't just throw something together. You exploded onto the scene. And the question isn't how that happened. It's what you're going to do with the fire you lit. Will you let it burn out? Or will you let it rage, consume, and transform everything around you? The choice is yours. But remember this, the world is waiting for more of you, not less. Not cleaner, not safer, not quieter, but raw, unfiltered, and utterly unstoppable.